As promised, for more on today's sixth day of testimony at the Madlanga Commission, Ayanda Nyathi is standing by in Pretoria. Ayanda, good morning to you again.
Good morning, Leanne. Great to see you as always. Welcome back to a chilly Bridget Mabandla Justice College here in Pretoria. Only 12 degrees this morning, winter sneaking back in. I don't think that's going to do anything, though, to taper down the weight of sitting in the hot seat here at the Madlanga Commission, which, of course, as you know by now, is probing allegations of corruption, political interference, and criminality in the justice system. And today we shift gears slightly to hone in on the SABC framework, or at least the legal framework that governs the SABC, and this is going to lean on several key pieces of legislation, including the Constitution and the South African Police Act of 1995, which really speaks to the administration under the SABC and the management thereof. This is important because in the testimony we've heard so far, questions have been raised about any kind of breach of policy in the line of command, insofar as the interactions between the now suspended minister is concerned and some of his subordinates. That, of course, includes Fani Masemola. And so hopefully what we'll get today is a better sense of what some of those parameters look like, and whether or not, in fact, this commission can make any kind of proclamation about whether or not those parameters themselves have been crossed. But Kenny Mapanga is also with us here, just a stone throw away from where I'm seated at our satellite studios, watching these developments as they've continued to unfold. Day 6, Kenny, of this commission, and hopefully this day will also come with clarity around the policy that governs the work of the SABC.
Indeed. Good morning to you, Ayanda, and to the viewers at home. We expect a new witness on the stand at 9:30 a.m. this morning, although the identity of the witness is not yet known. But we know that the legislative framework that guides or governs policing in South Africa, at least with respect to the Minister and the National Commissioner of the South African Police Services, will be in sharp focus before the Commission this morning. This is in light of the distinction that is created by the Constitution, which envisages that in policing South Africa, you will at least have the political head that deals with the national policy directives for the South African Police Services. Then, of course, you deal with the National Commissioner of SABC, which has control over the operations of the South African Police Services. Now, at least on the part of Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi, that is the KZN top cop, and General Fani Masemola, they understand it that way, that there is a policy head and there is an operative head. But of course, with the circumstances that we're seeing coming out through testimony before the Commission, that there may have been an encouragement on the part of the Minister on the duties and mandates of the National Commissioner. It is up to the Commission to determine whether the Minister, that is Minister of Police, Senzo Mchunu, had the authority to disband the PKTT. And part of what will assist them in determining this question is this issue of the legislative framework. And in order to get that kind of testimony, there's, of course, the first-hand knowledge from the witnesses, but, of course, you need the expert testimony that is rooted in the legislation and the facts in order for the Commission, to reach a conclusive fact regarding who had the authority to issue out, or rather that directive to be given to disband the PKTT. But to elaborate further on this, I am joined by retired Interpol ambassador, that is Mr. Andy Mashayele. Thank you for joining us early this morning, a very chilly morning in Pretoria, but thank you for being here nonetheless. There's been a lot of debate about the powers enjoyed by the Minister and the powers enjoyed by the National Commissioner, not only in terms of policing, but of course with the disbandment of the PKTT. Was he supposed to obey the instruction immediately, or did he follow the correct approach by trying to ascertain the facts? And even now today, we still see the PKTT still thriving in the police service without a disbandment yet. But that legal question is going to be critical to this commission, and of course on whether or not the Minister will be held accountable as to whether or not he encroached on the mandate of the National SABC Commissioner.
Kenny, good morning to you. When you understand your roles and responsibilities as outlined by the National Commissioner, and the Minister comes through and say do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and you know that is not correct, it becomes your responsibility to say, no, I will not do this because this is where you start and this is where you stop. This is where I start and this is where I stop. Operations the National Commissioner. Policy and many other things that does not have to do with operation falls within the ambit of the powers of the minister. It is against that backdrop that the commission will then determine whether this was an unlawful encroachment. Sometimes the minister will see from a different angle and want to advise on operations. You can then call your national commissioner and say, this is what I see. What do you think about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? As opposed to do this or do that, or don't do this, don't do that. So when you come from that angle as a minister, you are now operating in tandem with your provincial commissioner, your director general.
What we're getting from testimony, at least on the part of the SABC witnesses, that is Mkwanazi and Masemola, that this decision was allegedly taken unilaterally, so without consultation with the Commission of SABC. Can that defense stand that this was part of a policy directive if it did not even consult, at the very least, the National Commission of SABC?
Kenny, operations, once again, are the sole reserve of the National Commissioner. For the minister to have had decided to disband or disestablish, as we have learned of the new term, should not have happened unilaterally. At least the minister should have called the National Commissioner and say, I think that the time for the PKTT has come and gone. Kindly ensure that it's wound up because of the following reasons. 1, 2, 3. Alternatively, the minister could have said, National Commissioner, I am not satisfied with the performance of the KTT. I am not happy with the successes or the challenges of the PKTT, and therefore would want you to wind it down so that we can have a better team or another team different from the operations of the PKTT that will help us deal with the challenges.
Indeed, thank you very much, Mr. Mashaile. Well, we'll expect later today, Leanne, to hear whether or not that decision by the minister was lawful. And in the instance that it is lawful, to what extent can he then give directives to the police, or rather the National Commissioner, on how to give effective to this directive that is to disband the PKTT. We expect that testimony to begin at 9:30 a.m. this morning. But for now, it's back to Ayanda and our satellite studio.
Yeah, Kenny, thanks very much indeed. I suppose when all is said and done, questions will be raised about whether or not the legislative framework as it exists goes far enough in ensuring there isn't an undermining of public trust, a compromise of public safety, and ultimately it goes far enough in ensuring that there isn't an erosion of the rule of law. I imagine, without being preemptive, those are just some of the questions that will be top of mind for many South Africans who've latched onto these developments here as they've unfolded, and we'll certainly watch them for you in the lead up to day 6 of the Madlanga Commission. Leanne?
All right, thank you again, Kenny and Ayanda, giving great coverage there at the Madlanga Commission.